Hey, I'm going to get started by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is what we call our Pali Canon and English study group. I'll explain to you guys what that is a little bit later. We start each class with meditation to be able to help you guys train your mind. The individual that we refer to as the Buddha figured out how to get to enlightenment. This enlightenment is a mental state that the mind can experience through training of the mind, where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of that can be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are being caused by something external, but it's actually your own mind that's causing these feelings. This is why you can actually eliminate them. So meditation is an important component of that, but there's other things you would need besides meditation in order to be able to train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state. So that's why after our meditation, I'll share some teachings with you guys based on what the Buddha taught during his lifetime. So if you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I start this is with some chanting to ease into the meditation. You guys are welcome to join along in the chanting if you like. I have the chanting sheets on the cabinet over there. You're welcome to help yourself and get a chanting sheet, and you're able to chant right along because it actually helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation as you ease your mind into the meditation. Where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to help the students to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, the students would recite the teachings orally. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or any of that kind of stuff. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. He didn't teach you to believe a bunch of things and then hope something good happens when you die. He also didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayer, and any of those kinds of things. If you see those kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't actually from the Buddha. The Buddha taught you to train your mind. And there's many misunderstandings in the world today, so that's why you'll see different things that people are teaching, but it's not necessarily from the Buddha. So he used chanting as a way to help his students to remember his teachings. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally so that they could commit them to their memory, because the ability to write things down didn't exist during his lifetime. So he wasn't able to help his students to learn through books and audiobooks, videos, podcasts. YouTube didn't exist 2,500 years ago. So people weren't able to study in that way. So they just used chanting. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and said, "Here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me," right? This would be ego or arrogance. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't have that in the mind. But if you learned from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy that is the enlightened mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you might actually have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think these chants came from his students, either during his life or after his death. So today we chant them in order to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. It kind of exercises the mind a bit. And for those of you guys online, you can access this through our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. If you click on free books, if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll be able to see these chanting sheets. And then the way that we're going to do this is after the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance. You'll hear me teaching you and instructing you and guiding you during the meditation for a period of time. But then there's going to be quietness, where I'm not going to be guiding you or teaching you, and it's just going to be quiet, and everybody's going to be meditating here at the temple, and anyone who's joining online will just all be meditating together at the same time. Now, during this time of quietness, I'm sure there's going to be occasional sounds that you'll hear, that there's going to be potentially a car going by, a dog barking, a bird chirping. You're going to hear maybe someone here cough or sneeze. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. That's what's actually causing the mind to experience these discontent feelings, is that it craves permanence. but yet the mind lives in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing around you. So if you're in meditation, understanding the world is impermanent and it's constantly changing, when you hear a sound, you can rest at ease and be peaceful because you know that sound's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away, that it is impermanent. So you can just be at ease, understanding that this is the way that the world works, that everything around you is constantly changing. But if you have a craving for permanence in your meditation and you want permanent silence and you expect permanent silence, then you'll cause your mind to be annoyed and frustrated during the meditation. But you can avoid that by training your mind that that's not possible because you live in an impermanent world. After that period of time of quietness, we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and this is where I'll start the class after that. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like having a tool belt, and you use the different tools that you need at different times. So in our various classes, courses, and retreats, I teach those things. But for now, since maybe you're just getting started, I'll give you guys some guidance on the seated position, because this is a common way that people first start learning meditation, is in the seated position. You can really sit however you like. There isn't just one fixed way to actually sit, because that would be permanence. Everybody's body is a little bit different, and you find whatever's comfortable for you. So you can use what I'm suggesting here, or you can come up with something that you find on your own. It doesn't really matter, as long as the body's comfortable. You're not interested in the body being painful or luxurious, but instead you'd like the body to be comfortable in the middle. So you might use something that I share, or use something that you find on your own. You could sit on the floor, in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're in a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. But if you're on the floor, you might consider having some cushions under your rear, because that'll kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might decide to just do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and then he put this into his lap. If that's comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. And the same thing's true for anyone who's in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so that's an option for you too. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, you'd like this to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because it's going to help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you're real rigid with the upper body, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because it's not only going to keep the mind attentive and alert, but it's going to make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. So I'm going to do the chanting on the way in. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance to be able to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Otang Mahakavanang Apivate Ami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสตาตาวามนุสรังปุตโตภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Emakewa Potang Mahakawanhang Apivate Ami Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Damang Namasami Supatipano Mahakawato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakatoro Kawitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here at the temple. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is our Pali Canon and English study group where you can learn the teachings of the Buddha through his own words. This individual that we refer to as the Buddha, he figured out how to get to enlightenment. Enlightenment is a mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all your anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. The Buddha figured out these individual pollutions that are in the mind, and he figured out how to uproot those and eliminate those through training of the mind. And not only will you eliminate those discontent feelings when the mind's experiencing enlightenment, but you'll notice that the mind's focused. You'll have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Your personal, professional relationships will really be blossoming. They'll be at ease. You'll have harmony in all of your relationships. You'll notice that you're not even in a bad mood anymore, that it's physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood. And this is coming through training of the mind. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. He never taught to believe anything whatsoever. So you're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. You're also not doing rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. That's not what the Buddha actually taught. He taught you to investigate and examine his teachings, to reflect on his teachings, to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then he taught you to practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life to be able to train your mind. So through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress, your mind gradually moves to this enlightened mental state. Oftentimes people think that the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. This is a myth about the life story of the Buddha. If you study his original words, you'll be able to see that he talks about this gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And you know this to be true because everything in your life has been that way. Whether it's learning how to read, write, or speak a certain language, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Whether it's some job or occupation, maybe some special skill that you have, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So the teachings of the Buddha are here for you to be able to help you heal from what hurts you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what's hurting you is not the outside world. Oftentimes people think that it's the outside world that's causing these painful feelings in your mind. Is actually coming from your mind itself. And the Buddhist teachings help you to be able to see this in a way that you can independently verify. So typically what students do is they start with our various foundational programs and courses, our resources to be able to help them build a really nice foundation, a nice framework. On Sundays and Wednesdays, we have a program called the Group Learning Program where I gradually go through this first book chapter by chapter each Sunday, helping students to be able to understand the path to enlightenment based on the original teachings of the Buddha. That's a 7-month program that we just recently restarted, and you can gradually learn whether you're here in Chiang Mai or you're online. You can join our live classes through our live streams, or you can even watch the recordings. And then we have various courses and retreats throughout the year and throughout the month that you can also attend. And then as students have built a framework or a foundation for themselves, they might come into a program like this where you can learn volumes 2 through 13 of our book series, and you can gradually be learning through the original words of the Buddha. All these resources and all these programs are available at no cost to you. You can actually download our books for free. You can take it and go print it yourself if you like. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. So in this Pali Canon English study group, we teach it a bit different than we do all of our other programs. Our other programs, I teach for maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I open up for questions. I teach another 15, 20, 30 minutes, open up for questions. But in this program, what we do is I invite students to be able to read a chapter from the words of the Buddha. And these chapters are actually quite short. These are actually the original words of the Buddha. You can see that it's not even a page long. These are his original words of his teaching. And then after someone either here at the temple or online reads this chapter, then I will share some teachings on that for a few moments. Then I'll open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Today, we're actually in volume 2 of our book series because we just recently restarted this program. This is a 1.5-year program. We're in chapters 21 through 30 today. We're not going to be covering all those chapters here in this class, but that's where we're at in the actual program. And like I mentioned, students usually already have a foundation before they come into this program, but the fact that many of you, maybe this is your first time here, that's okay. You'll learn plenty of things today, but just understand this isn't where a person would normally start. They usually start with some of our other foundational programs. So what I'm going to do is see if there's anyone here online that would like to read this chapter. If you would like to volunteer to read here, or if you have a question at any point, we have microphones in the middle of the room. There's a white bowl where there's microphones. All you need to do is come get a microphone, take it back to your seat, press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on. You can hold that up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone. And if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so that we don't get feedback through the speakers. And if there's anyone in Zoom who would like to volunteer to read, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple. They'll be able to hear you online as well. And then when we get to the question period, if you're in Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom, you can put your question into the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand just like you would if you were going to volunteer to read. And the same thing here at the temple, you guys can use the microphones for any questions that you have. So is there anyone here online that would like to volunteer to read? Okay, looks like Chris online in Zoom. Go ahead, sir.
Being non-self with correct wisdom. Monks, form is impermanent. Feeling is impermanent. Perception is impermanent. Volitional formations, choices, and decisions are impermanent. Consciousness is impermanent. What is impermanent is discontentedness. What is discontentedness is non-self. What is non-self should be seen as it really is, with correct wisdom. Thus, this is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself. When one sees this thus as it really is, with correct wisdom, one holds no more views concerning the past. When one holds no more views concerning the past, one holds no more views concerning the future. When one holds no more views concerning the future, one has no more stubborn craving. When one has no more stubborn craving, the mind becomes free from strong feelings towards form, feeling, perception, volitional formations, choices, decisions, and consciousness, and is liberated from the taints by non-clinging. By being liberated, the mind is steady. By being steady, the mind is content. By being content, one is not agitated. Being unagitated, one personally attains nibbana, enlightenment. One understands, destroyed is birth. The holy life has been lived. What has to be done has been done. There is no more for the state of existence.
Okay, thank you, sir. So this is a teaching on the universal truth of non-self. This is one of the teachings that you learn as part of your journey to enlightenment. Because as I mentioned, you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. You need much more than just meditation. But you also wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. So that's why meditation is taught, and you need to train your mind. The teachings of the Buddha are something that you learn intellectually through examining and investigating his teachings. You reflect on them to verify whether they're true or false. And then you practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life and actually practicing. So I'll explain to you guys what this universal truth of non-self is, because it's actually a solution to one of the pollutions that the Buddha talked about. So where he's talking down here, where he's talking about that the mind is liberated from the taints. Chris actually read that. The taints are the pollutions of mind. Those are the defilements or the fetters. We refer to them as fetters because during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were a prisoner and they were trying to keep you confined to a certain area, they would put a shackle and a chain and a ball around your ankle, and they would just keep you in this particular field. That shackle, chain, and ball is the fetter. Where today we put prisoners in jail cells or prison cells, that during the lifetime of the Buddha, they would just attach a fetter to your ankle, and that's how they keep you confined to a certain area. So when he discovers those pollutions in the mind, he refers to them as fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped or confined in this unenlightened state where it's experiencing discontentedness over and over and over and over and over again. The anger, the sadness, the frustration, and all these other feelings. But when you eliminate the fetters or the taints, the pollutions out of the mind is now free. Just like the prisoner, if you release the fetter off the ankle, it's free. The same thing is true about your mind. But right now, your mind, if it's unenlightened, it's all bound up because all you need to do is hear somebody say a certain thing or see a certain thing, and you're all upset, you're all angry, and you're frustrated. The mind's all bound up. It's not free. So the Buddha is teaching you how to get free, where the mind is unagitated, where you don't have those strong feelings and emotions, where you're so angry and frustrated. That's just getting in your way of having a wonderful life, that you can't have harmonious relationships and you have difficulties making wise decisions when your mind's angry and frustrated. So the Buddha is teaching you how to have a calm, focused, concentrated mind where there can be peace and joy in your mind all the time. So this universal truth of non-self is helping you to understand the solution to one of those fetters. The first fetter is called personal existence view, where the mind is clinging or holding on to this body or this mind, thinking that this is who you are. The mind is clinging to a self-image or a self-identity, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And the mind can only be happy when it's experiencing that. So the mind's confused, thinking that this body or this mind is who you are. And the mind wants to be perceived by others in a certain way. And it can only be happy if that's the case. So for example, if you've ever been in a social situation and you spilt something on your clothing and you felt embarrassed by that, that's your personal existence view. The mind is clinging to this body, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And now when you've got that food across your clothing, you feel embarrassed because you're not being perceived the way you want to be perceived. Or if you look in the mirror and you see a wrinkle or a mole or a pimple or a gray hair, or you start losing your hair and you're shaken up by that, that's your personal existence view. The mind's clinging to this body, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. Or maybe you stood in front of your closet and you thought, who am I going to see today and how do I want to look? And maybe you put on multiple sets of clothing and you looked in the mirror and you're like, nah, that's not how I want to look. And then eventually you got a particular type of clothing on and you look in the mirror, you're like, all right, now I feel comfortable to go outside, right? This is the mind's personal existence view. You can only feel comfortable going outside if you're being perceived the way you want to be perceived. If you were like me when I was a child, I used to get out the gel and the mousse and I would run it through my hair, try to get every little hair in exactly the right spot before I'd go to school. And sometimes I'd do this for so long, I'd miss the school bus on the way to school, right? So this is personal existence view. The mind also can have an identity where you might be clinging to your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation, thinking that this is who you are as a person. Where if you're clinging to the idea of I am American, or I am Chinese, or I am German, or I am Canadian, or I am Lithuanian, or I am Spanish, or I am an Aussie, I am a Brit. If you cling to any of this kind of stuff, well, when you're in a social situation, say you're at a restaurant and 2 tables over, somebody's talking fondly of the place where you come from and the identity that you're holding in your mind, you'll be excited and happy about that because they're talking about me. But it's only a matter of time before you turn on the news or you're at a restaurant and you hear 2 tables over, maybe someone's talking in a negative or degrading or disrespectful way about Chinese people or about Americans or other nationalities that you might be clinging to in your mind. And now you're frustrated and agitated or annoyed. We're not talking about what's wise or unwise, because it's really unwise to talk negatively about other people, but you can't control what other people say and what other people do. All you can do is control your own mind if you train your mind. But if your mind's untrained and you have this idea that there's this identity in your mind of who you think you are, then you'll be shaken up in situations where that identity is not intact. So, for example, say you got together with a boyfriend or girlfriend and you think in your mind, I am a boyfriend, I am a girlfriend. This is an identity that you're holding in your mind. And now when you guys are together in a relationship, there's a certain amount of comfort with that. But when you guys break up and now you're single, the mind doesn't identify with I am single. And now you might have felt like you wanted to hurry up and get right back into another relationship, because this uncomfortableness that you're experiencing is because of your personal existence view, clinging to that role of I am a boyfriend, I'm a girlfriend, thinking that that's who you are. But the mind doesn't understand that. If you just got rid of that idea of I am a boyfriend, I'm a girlfriend, and just understand that that's not permanent, then you'll be completely comfortable when you're single. But the mind doesn't understand that. The mind thinks I am a boyfriend, I am a girlfriend. And it thinks the way to solve this is to hurry up and get right back into another relationship in order to be able to assume that identity. So the Buddha here is helping you to realize that all these things are impermanent, that this physical form that you have, this body, it is impermanent. It is not permanent. You are going to get wrinkles. You're going to get pimples and moles. You're going to get gray hair. Your hair is going to fall out. You're going to get bigger. You're going to get smaller. This is all change. This body is not permanent. But if you cling to this body, wanting it to be permanent and wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way, you can't be permanently happy because this body is going to change. So if you cling to this body and you're only happy if it looks a certain way, then that means as soon as it changes, you're going to be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. Or if you cling to your feelings, sometimes people think, I am angry, I am frustrated, or they might cling to their pleasant feelings of happiness and want that to be permanent. Well, if you're unenlightened, that happiness is not going to be permanent. And it's not really true that I am angry, because the Buddha teaches you that there is no I here, that this mind is experiencing anger, but that anger is not who you are as a person. You need to be able to see that the anger is separate, that this things that are going on in your mind does not define who you are as a person. But what an individual will typically do is cling to the body and the mind, thinking that this is who you are. So you need to be able to see through that. Or your perceptions. Understanding that those are impermanent is very helpful. What a perception is your views and opinions about the world. So you might have certain political views or certain opinions about the world and the people in the world. And if you cling to these views and opinions, thinking that that's who you are, you'll be in an argument with someone, knock down, drag out argument where you're fighting to death, trying to convince that other person that your perceptions of the world are right and other people's are wrong. But the fact is that all of us are different. All of us have had different experiences in the world, and we will have different perceptions about the world. But if you're craving permanence and you think your view of the world is 100% true and there's no other view in the world, then when you hear somebody else has a different opinion than you, then you might fight to death in order to try to really get this person to agree with you. Not literally, but figuratively. You can be arguing and fighting with your family members about political discussions or certain topics that are in the news, thinking that you're right and everyone else is wrong. And now you're just damaging your relationships. So you need to understand your perceptions are impermanent, meaning your perceptions are going to be constantly changing about the world, and other people are not going to have the same perception of the world as you have. And that is okay. That is the nature of the world, that the world is completely impermanent, that everybody's doing things differently, everybody has different views and opinions, but your mind in the unenlightened state is going to crave permanence, wanting everybody to agree with you, thinking that your way is the right way and everybody else's way is the wrong way. So you need to get to the point where you're not clinging to your perceptions, wanting everyone to agree with you, thinking that these perceptions make you who you are as a person. And then the same thing with your choices and decisions. An individual can cling to these, thinking that this is who you are. If you've used, say, drugs and alcohol in the past, and now today you might think, I am an alcoholic or I am an addict. This isn't actually true. This individual might have chosen to use drugs and alcohol in the past, but those were just choices and decisions that they were making. And those choices and decisions are not permanent. So those choices and decisions don't define who you are as a person today. So you can get to the point where you understand that, sure, you might have made certain choices, either wisely or unwisely in the past, but that doesn't define who you are today as a person. You can train your mind to not identify with that. Because if you cling to that identity of I am an alcoholic, I am an addict, now you can have guilt and shame in your mind. You need to get to the point where, of course, you understand it's unwise to use drugs and alcohol because it clouds your mind and it motivates unwise decisions, but you're not interested in adopting that as an identity of who you think you are, because then there's guilt and shame that's in the mind. And then the Buddha is teaching you here about the consciousness is the mind, that the mind is not permanent, that your mind, the identity and the things that you're holding in your mind, that's all constantly changing. And he's helping you to see that all of these things are impermanent, and it leads to discontentedness, because if you crave permanence, which is what the unenlightened mind does, then it's going to experience the discontentedness when you're not getting the permanence that the mind is craving, because you live in an impermanent world. What is discontentedness is non-self. So the discontent feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, anger, sadness, frustration, shyness, all of these things, that's not you. It's not who you are. Sometimes people say, oh, I am a shy person. No, that's not true. It's just that your mind has craving, desire, attachment. And in this situation, you're uncomfortable being around other people because of your personal existence view, where you're wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And if you're not being perceived the way you want to be perceived, you'll experience shyness. And now you'll think, I am shy. Well, this isn't actually true. It's just that your mind is experiencing shyness in that situation. So in those situations where you're experiencing shyness, the way to get rid of that is to actually put your mind in that situation. So maybe when I ask for the next person to read, maybe you're too shy and you don't want to read. But actually the way to overcome that is to actually put your mind in that situation, because your mind's personal existence view will be like, no, I don't want to read. I'm shy, because your mind doesn't want to be perceived in a certain way by other people. But the way you overcome that is you put your mind in that situation. Or say you were scared or fearful or shy to do public speaking, like being in front of other people and speaking. You will never get rid of that by running and hiding from that and never doing it. The way that you overcome that shyness and that fear is you actually put your mind in that situation and you do it. And that's what's actually going to train your mind to overcome that. So if you just run away from it, you'll never actually overcome it. So the Buddha is teaching you that none of this stuff is you. And then he goes on and he says, one who sees thus as it really is with correct wisdom, one holds no more views concerning the past, right? The Buddha teaches you not to cling to the past and form feelings today based on things that happened in your past. He says, when one holds no more views concerning the past, one holds no more views concerning the future. The same thing can happen is you can cling to things in the future, and now you can have stress and anxiety. Maybe you have a review coming up at work where your boss is going to give you a yearly review, and your salary is going to be based on that yearly review. And maybe you're stressed and having anxiety, and you're worried about what's going to happen in the future. You can train your mind to eliminate that. And then he says, one who holds no more views concerning the future, one has no more stubborn craving. Right? So this is what's causing the mind to experience these discontent feelings. It's the craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, wanting things to be permanent, when in reality you live in an impermanent world. And what the Buddha teaches you to do is how to restrain the mind and pull that back. And then sometimes when I say that, people think, well, wouldn't the mind swing all the way over here to the dullness and the lethargic condition? Well, it might, but that's not what the Buddha is teaching you. He's teaching you to be in the middle, where you can gradually pursue your goals, objectives, or interests with enthusiasm, motivation, and ambition. But you can do that without forming your feelings on whether you accomplish that thing or not. If you have a certain goal that if you attain it, you're happy, and if you don't attain it, you're sad and frustrated, that's actually not a true goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment. That's something you're chasing after, and you're forming your feelings on whether you get it or not. And because you live in an impermanent world, you can't always get what you want. So it's only a matter of time before you experience anger and sadness and frustration. So the Buddha is teaching you how the world is impermanent, and this isn't possible for you to always get what you want, so that you can come to the middle and you can pursue things wisely with wise decision making. And that's what's going to produce the peace and the joy. So you can eliminate this longing, yearning. When one has no more stubborn craving, the mind becomes free of strong feelings. That's the freedom of discontentedness. Freedom towards these strong feelings, towards form, feelings, perceptions, volitional formations, and consciousness, because that's what the mind's clinging to, wanting these things to be permanent. And is liberated from the taints by non-clinging. So the mind is free of those pollutions. That's what the taints are, the fetters, the defilements. By being liberated, the mind is steady, because when the mind is in the enlightened mental state, it's steady. It's unshakable, that the mind can't be shaken up. It's steady and calm. By being steady, the mind is content. Right? The mind is satisfied and fulfilled. Where in the unenlightened state, the mind always wants what it doesn't have. If you want this much money, you will chase that and chase it and chase it and chase it and chase it. And then once you get it, you'll be happy for a period of time, but then you're going to want more. And now you're going to chase that and chase that and chase that. And you just keep chasing and chasing and chasing. But when your mind is liberated from the pollutions of mind, you can be content and peaceful, understanding your bank account's going to be here sometimes, and that's fine. But it's going to be here sometimes, and that's okay too. And then it's going to be here sometimes, or here, 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 and that's all okay. But when you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, you always want what you don't have. But when you eliminate craving, you can be content with what's going on in your current life while still making decisions to pursue growth and development and forward progress in your life. By being content, one is not agitated. You don't walk around frustrated, agitated, or annoyed. By being unagitated, one personally attains nibbana. Right? So here the Buddha is giving kind of a short little description of what enlightenment is. You'll sometimes hear people tell you that enlightenment is impossible to describe, and that the Buddha never described enlightenment. This isn't true. You can see it in the words of the Buddha right here. There's so many misunderstandings in the world about what enlightenment even is. So therefore, people are hindered from being able to experience it because they don't understand what it is and how to actually attain it. You can see by studying the original words of the Buddha, what did he teach and what he didn't teach. So you can see in his own words that he absolutely taught what enlightenment is, and he taught about how to attain it too. And then he says, one understands destroyed is birth. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of existence. Because once you get to enlightenment, you've now outside of the cycle of rebirth. You're not going to be experiencing rebirth over and over and over again. As you guys heard me share, the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief, including the cycle of rebirth. You should never believe in the cycle of rebirth, but you can actually independently verify it. Right now, you might actually be believing that you only have one life, but you don't have any evidence that you only have one life. The only thing is that right now you can't maybe remember your past lives. But as you're training your mind and you're lifting this pollution out of your mind, you might actually start having vivid memories of your past lives. And if you start experiencing that, you'll know with 100% certainty that the cycle of rebirth is true. You might have even had some of those experiences already. If you've ever experienced deja vu, where your memories are bubbling up to the forefront of your mind, you're doing something in this life and it feels so utterly familiar to you, but you know you've never actually done that before, or you've never actually been to that place before, but it feels so utterly familiar to you. That's some of your residual memories bubbling up to the surface of your mind from your previous lives. And there's other ways for you to verify this too. In our book series, I have 17 different criteria of how to verify the cycle of rebirth. So once somebody gets to enlightenment, they're no longer going to be coming back, being reborn over and over and over and over and over again. So this is just some of the words of the Buddha on this particular chapter. And you can see why oftentimes students have already developed a foundation before studying this, because it needs some foundational understanding to be able to come into a program like this. But I can teach you guys in a way to help you to understand. So do you guys have any questions on this chapter? Anything you'd like to ask, either here at the temple or online? No questions here? Yeah, you have a question? Yes, ma'am. There's a microphone over there. While you're getting that microphone, I'm going to answer this question coming in on Zoom because Chris is asking a question. He says, if I'm attending class and I notice conceit or some other pollution arising in the mind, is it best to try to focus on class with singleness of mind, or is it wiser to dedicate the mind to completely cutting off the unwholesome thought causing the conceit and fetter? Those two things are exactly the same thing, Chris. By practicing singleness of mind to focus on the class, you're actually working to cut off and let go of whatever that unwholesome thought is. So that's exactly what you would like to be doing, is practicing singleness of mind, focus on the class, and that's the process of cutting off and letting go of that unwholesome thought and bringing the mind to focus on what it is that you're doing, like in this class. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it just takes a second to, it's not on yet. You just need to press it. They're Buddhist microphones, so you have to be patient with them.
Thanks. I think my question is quite similar to what online question already.
Oh, okay.
Probably you already answered that. My question was that, to be non-self, what kind of a practice method to achieve that non-self things?
Sure. There's multiple ways to train the mind to get to this non-self where you no longer have personal existence view. The first thing you'd like to do is deeply learn the Eightfold Path, which is the core central teaching of the Buddha. And you'd like to learn it with the original words of the Buddha. And all the resources that I share has the Eightfold Path, and all the classes that I teach and programs, I teach you thoroughly what is the Eightfold Path. You need that well underway. But then once you get that well underway, because part of what that's going to teach you is how to cut off and let go of any arising discontent feelings and any arising personal existence view. But then there's other things you can do that are proactively training the mind to eliminate personal existence view. There's a meditation called the meditation to realize non-self. That's a really helpful way to do that. You can also do things like what the Buddha did, which he wore simple clothes. That's why he wore simple rag robes, and he shaved his hair. These statues that you guys see in these temples, the Buddha actually didn't look like that. He didn't wear a crown on his head. and wear those fancy elaborate clothing. He actually wore very simple rag robes and shaved his hair. Whether you choose to do that as a choice for you to make, you can actually do other things. You can actually take your clothing and you can stack it up and just pick off the top, not giving your mind an opportunity to decide, how do I want to look today? Who am I going to see and how do I want to look? So you don't have to go out and buy rag robes or simple white clothes like I wear. You can just pick off the top. Don't give your mind a chance to actually choose. Shaving your hair is a way to really move forward with personal existence view and getting rid of that. Not everybody will have to shave their hair in order to be able to realize non-self, but it does accelerate that process. Sometimes just talking about it, people get really, uncomfortable just talking about shaving their hair, especially a woman. But that shows you how your mind's clinging to it. It's clinging to that hair, and it can't even imagine letting that go. Sometimes what you might decide to do is remove any jewelry or items that you have on the body, because the mind's trying to adorn the body to look a certain way to people. Even eliminating things like perfumes and scents and things of this nature is really helpful. And you can set all these things aside for a period of time. And then after the mind's been more fully trained, and there's other things, by the way, besides this, once the mind's more fully trained to eliminate personal existence view, you might decide to start wearing that jewelry again, or wearing that cologne or perfume, or growing your hair, something like that. But you need to give the mind a good long while to train to eliminate that personal existence view. And don't allow your mind to trick you into thinking that personal existence view is gone. You need to be objective to be able to understand what is personal existence view in more detail, understand what the symptoms of it are, understand how to eliminate it, and how to know that you've actually eliminated it. I sometimes spend an hour to an hour and a half just teaching about personal existence view and how to eliminate it. So if you're interested in that, it's been taught many times. It's been recorded on our YouTube channel. There's also content in our book, the very first book, chapter 16, volume 1, chapter 16. You can see the details in there, because I just give you just a little bit today. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
So I am confused of how to find the balance of being no self, and also having the ego to achieve a successful career and, other egos in life.
So personal existence view is part of the ego, but it's not the entire ego. The other part of the ego is a fetter called conceit. This is the arrogance and pride, the measuring and comparing, thinking that you're above people or below people. And these two things are what we're referring to as the ego. And in order to get to enlightenment, you actually need to dissolve the ego and eliminate the ego. You will actually be much more successful in life without an ego. Going into an environment where the mind is boastful and arrogant and measuring and comparing people and things like this, judging others and looking down on them, that's not going to produce wholesome results for you, because you're not going to be able to have harmonious relationships with people. And as an individual chooses to be arrogant and egotistical, people will tend to push that person aside because they're disinterested in associating with this person. Where this comes from is our animal existences. When we were in the animal world, we actually needed conceit. Without conceit, we wouldn't have actually survived. So, for example, as a pack of wolves, we needed to know who's the alpha male, who's the alpha female, because they're teaching us how to hunt and survive and be a better wolf. As a herd of elephants, we needed to know who's the matriarch of our herd, because she's showing us where the food is, where the watering holes are, where the migration paths are. If we didn't know who was above us in this herd, we would have never survived. We'd have just been a roaming elephant in the forest, and we would have died, right? So in the animal realm, we need conceit. But when we come into this human world, the mind's conceit actually stands in the way of you having harmonious relationships and having love and kindness for the other being, because the mind will sit there and judge others and either look down on them and kind of talk down to this person, or just as detrimental, an individual can put themselves below another individual and look up to that person with such awe and admiration that you're shaken up around that person. So for example, if you're shaken up when you're around your boss, maybe you go into their office and now you're all shaken up, and it's difficult for you to communicate in that situation and now experience improvement in your career. So if you get rid of your ego, if you get rid of your conceit, you'll just see your boss just like everybody else. Of course, you'll respect this person and have politeness and kindness towards them, but you can just be respectful to everybody, not just your boss, but respectful to everybody. Oftentimes people are only respectful to someone if they want something from that person, right? So maybe the person that's sweeping the street outside, maybe somebody's disrespectful to that person. But maybe if the king of Thailand came walking through, you'd be really respectful to that person. But one of the ways your mind gets to the peace and joy in the enlightened mental state is you train your mind to treat everybody equally. That's why it's so peaceful. Because when you go into a social situation with ego, your mind's going to be constantly trying to figure out who's above me and who's below me. And now I'm going to talk to these people in one way, and I'm going to talk to these people in another way. And your mind having to constantly switch back and forth like that. But when you can get to the point where you just treat everybody equally, you can just be polite, kind, friendly, respectful to everybody. And this will actually produce better results for you in your career. So you would like to get rid of the ego. And with personal existence view, that'll actually help you to get rid of your ego, where you can be working towards goals and accomplishments in your career, but you don't allow your mind to adopt that as who you are as a person. So, for example, when I was in the IT world, I was an IT manager. I was in kind of like first line management. And if I would have adopted that as my identity of who I think I am as a person, then when I was interested to start my own business, which is what I did, I wouldn't have been able to do that because I was switching careers. I went from IT to opening a Thai massage business where I had 2 Thai massage spas and a Thai massage training school. Whereas if I would have held on to this identity of who I thought I was as an IT professional, I would have never experienced that opportunity to grow and develop as an entrepreneur. But then if I was clinging to the idea that I was an entrepreneur, I would have never decided to start teaching these teachings and share them with you guys, because I would have been clinging to that as my identity of who I thought I was. So by getting rid of this personal existence view, it gives you the freedom to not identify with any of these things and grow your career and grow your life in whichever way you like without actually adopting that identity of who you think you are. Mm-hmm. All right. So it looks like we don't have any other questions. Yeah, sure. Help yourself.
So the question actually is first questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think your answer is about like we can more focus on the internal, focus on over self. But some situations like some other people, they are quite like they have high egos and they kind of judge others by their status, by how much money they earn. And that kind of things affect me.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, how could I deal in that situation?
How you can what?
How could I deal with that?
Oh, okay.
If I met that kind of person, he judged me on my job, on my social status. So
sure.
That's influenced me a lot.
Okay, so the only reason why that can affect you in terms of your feelings and emotions is that the mind is choosing for that to affect you. If you have a craving, desire, attachment for this person to function in a certain way, and you can only be happy when that person treats you a certain way and interacts with you in a certain way, you'll be happy when they function that way, but you'll be angry or sad or frustrated when they don't function that way. So what you need to be able to do is do what the Buddha is teaching you here, is eliminate that cravings, those longing, the yearning for other people to be a certain way and treat you a certain way. Of course, you would like to associate with people who are doing wholesome things and wise things, but you are going to have occasional people who treat you in unkind, unfriendly, and impolite and disrespectful ways, because that's the impermanent nature of the world. But you can train your mind to be unaffected by that when somebody's treating you in a certain way. But also, I think more targeted to your question is if this person is, say, your manager, and now they're reviewing you and your salary and your future is dependent on the decisions that this person makes, that's where you need to decide to make different decisions. You need to be able to make wise decisions about who you choose to be involved with. So you would like to, when you go in for a job interview, you would like to be interviewing your boss just as much as your boss is interviewing you. because you would only like to be able to work with people who are making wise decisions and who are into wholesome things. So you would like to be asking them questions too in order to get to know them, because if your future and your future success in life is based on being involved with these people and the decisions that they're making, you would like to be sure that you're going into an environment where these people are making wise decisions. So as you're doing your job interviews and stuff like this, make sure you're asking the boss questions and the other coworkers questions too. And if you're currently in a job where you're realizing, oh my gosh, these people are making so many unwise decisions, and it's affecting me in a negative way, meaning affecting you and your ability to move your life forward, not in terms of your feelings and emotions. Your feelings and emotions are being caused by your own mind. But if these people are making unwise decisions that are hindering you and obstructing you from forward progress in life, you can just make different decisions. You can choose to change your job and go to another company or to another, organization or another department within your company. But that the discontent feelings, those aren't going to be solved by changing to another department or another company, because what's causing it is inside your own mind. So maybe in this group, there are certain things that they don't do that you want them to do, and you'll be angry and frustrated at that. And now maybe you'll find another group that doesn't do those things, but now they do other things that you don't like. That's your mind's craving, desire, attachment. The mind has this craving for permanence, that I want everyone to do it this way. And if they do it this way, I like it. And if they don't do it that way, I don't like it. That's the mind's craving, desire, attachment. You need to be able to get to the point where you see wisdom of how to make wise decisions, to involve yourself with a group of people that are doing wholesome and wise things, while making sure that you're working on your own cravings, desires, attachments, so that your mind's not constantly experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings. So by prioritizing your growth and development on this path and learning the path to enlightenment and training your mind like that, then you'll be able to experience more and more improvement and progress in your career, and you won't have those feelings constantly plaguing you and causing you difficulties in your day-to-day work.
Thank you so much. I think that very useful, and I need to switch my mind.
That's what this path is all about. This path to enlightenment isn't about going out into the world and changing other people. It's about changing your mind and transforming your mind. This is like a self-help program. That's what the Buddha is teaching you. He's teaching you how to go inward and train your mind to overcome the difficulties and challenges within your own mind. So if you prioritize your training by learning in classes, by taking retreats and courses, working with the true words of the Buddha, which is what these resources that I share have, then you can see the way forward of how to train your mind. Because all of us growing up, we learned how to clean our body, right? Our parents taught us how to clean our body, but you probably didn't learn how to clean your mind. And if you walked around not cleaning your body for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, or a few years, you'd be really uncomfortable not cleaning your body. Well, if you're walking around the world having not cleaned your mind, this is why you experience stress and anxiety, loneliness and boredom and frustration and all these other feelings, because you're not addressing this full being who you are. There's a body that you need to clean, but there's also a mind that you need to clean too. And now as an adult, since you didn't learn this as a child, you can learn it as an adult. And that's where now you're in a place that understands how to clean the mind. And that's why you see Thai people here, they're quite peaceful, they're quite joyful. They call Thailand the land of smiles, because it's really easy to smile when you don't have pollution in your mind. And not every Thai person is enlightened, but they've learned these teachings to a certain degree as they were growing up. So we didn't necessarily grow up in that type of environment to learn those things as a child, but now you're in a place where you can start to learn that. And now even going back to your home country, you can now continue to learn, because we have technology like live stream and videos and books and all these other things. Yes, sir.
Scenario.
Yep, it's working.
good?
I'm just turning off the air conditioning. I'm getting cold.
Oh, good.
This body is getting cold. There's no eye here to get cold.
Yeah. Actually, I have a scenario. For example, if a desperate patient suffering from a very serious disease every second, how could such a patient to achieve non-self, because our mind is subjected to our physical form.
Ideally, you would be training your mind long before you get to that point, right? That as a child, if you're training your mind, this is ideal because you have less pollution in your mind as a child. As we age, we accumulate more experiences and more pollution in the mind. So the younger you learn these teachings, the better. But there's never a bad time to learn these teachings. I have some students that are 80, 90, years old or higher, right? So you can learn at any age, but ideally you would learn very early in your life, and that's going to help you to train your mind. But you can learn at any point. As you learn and you train your mind, you learn to not cling to this body. But even in the enlightened mental state, you're going to experience pain, physical pain, but it's not going to be the same as when you are in the unenlightened state. In the unenlightened state, when you experience physical pain in the body, you're not only going to experience that physical pain, you're going to experience mental pain too, mental anguish, because your mind is craving for the body to be permanently comfortable. So say you stump your toe as an unenlightened being, you'll feel the physical pain, but then immediately after that, your mind's going to get the mental pain or the mental anguish because your mind's craving for the body to be permanently comfortable. And when it feels that uncomfortableness, that pain, it gets mental anguish. It gets frustrated and angry and actually heightens the physical pain and makes it more profound. But as an enlightened being, you'll still experience the physical pain, but your mind won't have a craving for permanent comfort of the body. You'll understand that this body can't be permanently comfortable, so therefore you won't experience the mental anguish. You only experience the physical pain. And you actually need physical pain, even as an enlightened being, because as an enlightened being, even though you're joyful and happy and cheerful, if you were standing too close to a fire, you need to know, like, oh, there's a fire there. Let me step away. So you need just that little bit of physical pain to be able to know, hey, something's wrong here. I need to fix this. I need to make some decisions to fix it. So ideally, you would train your mind long before you get to any kind of terminal illness or any kind of difficult situation with the physical body. But if you haven't and you are experiencing that, you can still be training your mind even with that physical pain. You just need to be able to learn the teachings. This isn't where someone would start, right? This is volume 2. It would be wiser to start in volume 1 and gradually start with what's called the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths is the very first teaching of the Buddha, where in 4 simple statements, he explains the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And you would like to learn that with the resources that I share, because there's so many places that share what they consider to be the Four Noble Truths, but it's not necessarily based in the original teachings of the Buddha. So that's the best place to start. And that's going to teach you how to train your mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, where the mind's craving permanence. But ultimately, by the time you eliminate personal existence view, in that situation of the terminal illness, your personal existence view isn't what's going to help you eliminate your physical pain, muting that, and the mental anguish, because the personal existence view is wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. So let's just say you're in a hospital bed, you've got a hospital gown on, your hair's all messy, and you're hooked up to an IV, and your very best friend or the most admired celebrity walks into the room. You might be embarrassed in that situation if you have personal existence view. But if you didn't have personal existence view, that admired celebrity walks in, even with your hair all flying all over the place and wearing a hospital gown hooked up to an IV, you'd still be completely content and peaceful. That's what eliminating personal existence view and realizing non-self would help you with. But in terms of the physical pain, what's going to help you there is eliminating a fetter or a pollution called sensual desire. This is a different pollution, and the Buddha has other techniques that help you to eliminate that. That's where the mind is longing, yearning through your eyes, ears, nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself for permanence. It's looking for permanently agreeable contact. So for example, if you're sitting at a traffic light and someone pulls up to you with some really good music that you like, you hear it through your ear, and your sensual desire will be like, all right, that's my jam. All right, let's party, 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 party. And you'll be so excited about that. But then if you go up to the next traffic light and somebody else pulls up to you with a different type of music, you'll be angry and frustrated. Like maybe you don't listen to this particular type of music, and now you'll be frustrated and angry because you're hearing something in the ear that is disagreeable to you. The reason why the mind has this agreeable and disagreeable is because of its craving, desire, attachment. When you get rid of your central desire, where you understand things are not going to be permanently agreeable to you, you can let that go. When someone pulls up with the nice music that you usually listen to, you're like, all right, that's my jam. Let's party. Good, have a good time. But now when somebody pulls up with a different type of music that you don't particularly listen to, you're not going to be frustrated. You're not going to be irritated. It's like, all right, well, that guy's having a good time. Have a good time. And you understand that this is impermanent. You're going to be at the traffic light for maybe 3 minutes, and then they're going to pull off and it's over. So it's central desire that is causing the mind to experience the mental pain when there's an illness or injury. The personal existence view isn't going to help you eliminate that part of it. It's going to help you to eliminate the embarrassment when somebody walks into your room and this body doesn't look a certain way. Yep, you're welcome. Okay, I think that's everything so far based on the questions. So let's see what the next chapter is. Is there someone here or online that would like to read this next chapter? This is chapter 22. This is another short one too. It's about a page and just a quarter. Sure. Yeah.
One who is engaged is unliberated. One who is disengaged is liberated. Monks, one who is engaged is unliberated. One who is disengaged is liberated. Consciousness, monk, while standing, might stand engaged with form, based upon form, established upon form, with a sprinkling of excitement. It might come to growth, increase, and expansion. All consciousness, while standing, might stand engaged with feeling, based upon feeling, established upon feeling, with a sprinkling of excitement. It might come to growth, increase, and expansion. All consciousness, while standing, might stand engaged with perception, based upon perception, established upon perception. With a sprinkling of excitement, it might come to growth, increase, and expansion. All consciousness, while standing, might stand engaged with volitional formulations, choices, decisions, based upon volitional formation, established upon volitional formations. With a sprinkling of excitement, it might come to growth, increase, and expansion. Monks, though someone might say, separated from form, separated from feeling, separated from perception, separated from volitional formation, coming and going of consciousness, its passing away and rebirth, its growth, increase, and expansion, is impossible. Monks, if a monk has abandoned desire for the formal aggregate, handling of craving the basis is cut off. There is no support for the establishment of consciousness. If he has abandoned desire for the feeling aggregate, for the perceptual aggregate, for the volitional formulations, choices, decisions aggregate, for the consciousness aggregate, with abandoning of craving the basis is cut off. There is no support for the establishment of consciousness. When that consciousness is unestablished, not coming to growth, non-generative, the mind is liberated. By being liberated, the mind is steady. By being steady, the mind is content. By being content, one is not agitated. Being unagitated, one personally attains nibbana, enlightenment. One understands, destroyed is birth. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of accidents.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Okay. So here, the Buddha is using the word engaged and disengaged for craving and non-craving, right? So one who is engaged is unliberated. So in other words, one who has craving, desire, attachment, or the mind's craving and holding on, craving permanence, is unliberated, meaning the mind's not free. It's bound up. You're experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and all those other feelings. One who is disengaged, meaning practicing non-craving, their mind's not clinging and craving permanence, is liberated. The mind's free. Right? Consciousness monks, while standing, might stand engaged in form, based upon form, established upon form, with a sprinkling of excitement. And it might come to growth, increase, and expansion. So when the mind's getting what it wants, it'll get excited, it'll get happy, elated. But then when it's not getting what it wants, it gets the painful feelings like anger, sadness, and frustration and others. So if you look outside and it's sunny and you're really excited about that, well, when it rains, you'll be sad and frustrated, right? So those conditioned pleasant feelings based on an impermanent situation are going to ultimately lead to the painful feelings. So if you get really happy and excited when your bank account balance is up here, what do you think you're going to do when the bank account balance goes down here? You're going to get angry and frustrated, right? Because you based your happiness on this impermanent situation. This situation is not permanent. That's why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness yet, because your mind isn't trained to be able to be peaceful and joyful inwardly. It's getting its happiness externally. It's forming its happiness on external things. And now these external things are not permanent. So if you're happy when you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, when you guys break up, you'll be sad and frustrated, and you'll think that that's love. It's not your love that's causing that. It's your craving for permanence, right? Or if you get a brand new car, you'll be so happy and excited about that. But when you get a scratch on it, you'll get frustrated and angry because your mind's craving that car to look permanently beautiful, when in reality it is not permanent. So you can actually have a breakthrough to being able to understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And this is really helpful because now you can understand what the true problem is and you can actually solve it. Whereas if you think it's other people who are causing your feelings, you'll never actually be able to solve it. You'll tend to push those people away. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, or you'll put your expectations on them and try to control them and pressure them to do things your way. And people might be doing this to you too, where they're pushing you away, or they're being bitter, hostile, and harsh to you, or they're putting expectations on you and trying to control you. They're trying to get you to do things their way because they're trying to form their happiness based on you instead of going inward and understanding that their happiness needs to come from inward. So the Buddha is teaching you to not have this engagement where the mind is longing, yearning, and trying to force other people to do things your way, but instead you go inward to be able to experience the peace and the joy. So ultimately he gets down here. He says, separated from form, separated from feeling, separated from perception, volitional formations, and consciousness, that if this person says they're going to make known the passing away, rebirth, growth, and increase and expansion, this is impossible. Because you can't just separate your mind from these objects that the mind's craving and longing, yearning. You actually have to eliminate the craving from the mind. Oftentimes people think that it's the object itself that is the craving, desire, attachment. Because people know that the Buddha left from the royal palace and went off on his own. He ultimately was staying in the forest to be able to train his mind to get to enlightenment. And people think that that's what you have to do in order to get to enlightenment. You don't have to go into the jungle and live in the jungle to get to enlightenment. You just need to train your mind to not long and yearn for these different objects. The object itself isn't the craving, desire, attachment. It's the way that the mind longs and yearns for it, craving for it to be permanent. So an enlightened being, you'll be able to have relationships, you'll be able to have a car, a house, a computer, a phone, you'll be able to have all these things. It's just that the mind needs to eliminate its longing, yearning, its craving for permanence. So that's why the Buddha says just separating from these things, your consciousness isn't going to be able to understand this path to enlightenment because it's impossible. You actually need to train your mind to abandon the desire. That's what the mind needs to do, is eliminate the longing, yearning for it. Not just separate yourself from it, but eliminate the longing, yearning for it. And once you eliminate your longing, yearning for it, you can actually come back together with that particular thing. So right now, I know many of us have these phones, right? You might actually have an attachment to your phone. If you lost your phone, or if someone stole it, or if it broke, you'd probably be upset or angry or frustrated, right? Well, that's because you're craving for this to be permanent when it is not permanent. So one of the things that would be wise for you to do is sometimes leave it at home. And just the idea of leaving it at home and going outside without it, you might feel uncomfortable. That's the mind's craving, because it's craving for this to be permanent. But if you leave it at home over multiple sessions, and you can go outside for 3 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, and then when you come home, don't go rush and look at your phone right away. Instead, do other stuff. And then after 30 minutes or an hour, go look at your phone. And if you do this several times, you'll get to the point where your mind's not attached to your phone. And now when you have your phone, you'll be able to enjoy it, and you'll be able to do what it is that you need to do on your phone. But for some reason, if at some point you accidentally leave your phone at home, you won't have any fear. You won't have any uncomfortableness. You won't have any worry or anxiety, because you understand that that phone is not permanent. So you need to be able to not just separate yourself from the object, but you need to train your mind to eliminate the longing, yearning for it to be permanent. And that's what the Buddha is talking about here, is about cutting off the craving, abandoning it from the mind. And then ultimately he talks about getting to enlightenment through that process. So any questions on this chapter? Anything you guys would like to ask? Chris has a question here. It says, Teacher David, what does it mean to make known the coming and going of consciousness, its passing away and rebirth? That's where somebody would understand the cycle of rebirth. You won't be able to understand that while your mind is still craving and clinging. So that's why what he's talking about. Okay, I think that's everything. So what I'm going to do is at this point, I'm just going to end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and develop on the path. I usually in this particular class just teach however much that we need to teach in order to give you guys an opportunity to learn and grow and develop. I usually kind of teach up until about 10:30. So I like to just end each one of my classes by thanking you, because as you learn and grow and develop on the path, it's helping you, it's helping those close to you, and it's helping all of humanity, because you're learning and growing and developing of how to become a better, more kinder, more loving, more gentler individual. And this is helping you, those close to you, and all of humanity. So thank you for choosing to spend some time to grow and develop as a person. If you'd like to learn more, there's lots of opportunities for you to do that. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. here at the temple, I'm going to be teaching the mental discipline section of the Eightfold Path. That's the core central teaching of the Buddha, where he's teaching you how to train your mind so you can control your mind. And then on tomorrow at 6:30 in the main hall, which is synced up with the night walking market, we're going to be doing meditation, where I'll just guide students in meditation and then open up to any and all questions that you have. On Wednesday, I'm going to be doing meditation here with students. Actually, I'm sorry, this Wednesday, I'm going to, yes, be doing meditation, but I'm going to actually be teaching about a Buddhist pilgrimage tour and retreat that I went on a few weeks ago, where I'm going to be sharing pictures and photos and helping you guys to understand what a Buddhist pilgrimage retreat is and what you'll experience in that situation and why somebody would be interested in doing this. So that's what I'm going to be doing on Wednesday, meditation and then that. And then on Fridays, we have a social event here where we come together, we play music, we play games, we have like a little party. Sometimes people bring food. So if you guys would like to come for our social event, you're more than welcome to come any Friday at 6 p.m. We get together here with different people. So you're welcome to come to those. So you'll find all of this on our bulletin board over there or on our website, where you can see all of our events. That's buddhadailywisdom.com. So if you have any questions and you'd like to let me know, I'm pleased to help you guys. Whatever you choose to do for the rest of your day, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee-krap. Sawadee-krap. Jai Jian.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.